Hello Chassos and welcome to our video discussing my beautiful boys, the Kroot Hounds. Now, just wanted to record a quick intro and get into the meat of the video very quickly. As excitingly, this video is sponsored by me. So our Patreon went live. We are doing a launch competition. We already have a couple of patrons which have made their way in, and I've got a special message for them after I finish this shameless plug. So if you're interested in getting Operative Umbral 6, if you're interested in any of the things that we've got going on our Patreon page, obviously there's posts that are going up more and more as we get more content out and everything else. And get exclusive stuff like having your name at the end of each of my videos, getting coaching sessions for 40k, getting custom lists built for you based on the models that you own, even just, photos and videos and whatever else from my personal life and my tournament life and everything else. There's a lot of value that I'm going to be trying to pack into this Patreon just to make sure that I'm giving back to the people that are, investing in me. So without any further ado, message to my first patron, Jacob. So just got my first patron, and as past Jay said, future Jay is elated. Just wanted to post something which is a thank you. I know that it doesn't maybe seem like much to other people, but for me, like, this stuff actually just means a ton, and hopefully you're not the only one. And so Jake, it's to you. Okay, and with that, Jacob, again, thank you so much. To my other patrons that joined after him, love you guys as well. Thank you so much, and let's get into the video. Hey Chassos, so today we're going to be talking about my beloved Kroot Hounds. Now, I've likely already done my intro with the computer setup, but here we're going to be talking about a little bit of deployment stuff, a little bit of how I use them, and a little bit of how they're my MVPs. Now, we're using just the camera that we've got available. I know the audio is not going to be the greatest. Just got a little microphone chucked up on the top of it. We have no lighting or whatever else. If you want to change that, go to patreon.com/Pantheon Studios. I'll put a link down in the description. And so let's talk about how we use our Kroot Hounds to get the maximum value out of them, even though on paper they look like a minimum value unit. So we've got a board set up here. Ignore Reptar, he's just our patron saint who's going to be looking over the battlefield. We have our deployment lines set up, and we have our opponent has deployed their Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight onto the line on their board. Now, what we are going to do is deploy our Kroot Hounds, and before we do anything, talk to our opponent. One of the first things I do is make sure that I use the 7-inch pre-game move to its maximum value. So I will say something like this. Okay, so measuring out, the Kroot Hounds are going to be riding that deployment line, and they are within 7 inches for their pre-game move. So if I go second, I can jump back over the wall. If I don't and I go first, I can run out. Now, let's say in this notional scenario, we don't go second because that one's very easy. We just get them over the wall and we protect them, or we move them up into this little ruin down here so that the vehicle has a hard time touching it or shooting them. Now, that will obviously depend on how much shooting and line of sight angles they've got, so use your best judgment. But let's say we go first. So we 7-inch pre-game move out, and then we go, okay, these guys aren't going to live for long. That is not their job. If you can hide them, they can hold objectives, sure. In this instance, we know that this Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight wants to run across the field. He does not have the fly keyword. He doesn't have a teleport ability that allows him to go through stuff. So what we are going to do using our 12 inches of movement is block him in his own deployment zone. Because Kroot Hounds go 19 inches in the first turn if you go first, with a 7-inch pre-game move and 12 inches of movement. Now, one other thing that we can do is advance, because Kroot Hounds re-roll their own advance rolls and their own charge rolls. We do not want these guys to tag this commander in combat. He will just pick them up on their turn. That is a massive misplay. You do not want to tag them into anything that has a chance to just punk them out straight away. So what we are going to do is advance them. Now I got a 5, so I don't want to re-roll that. So we are going to go 17 inches. And what I'm going to do, because these, let's say these dice don't matter anymore, I'm going to use those and I'm going to put them at 3.1 inches because I don't want him to heroically intervene me. Okay? So, 3 inches out is behind that dice, behind that dice, and behind that dice. Now, those are rough measurements. Let's just say they're accurate. Obviously, during a tournament setting, you're much more accurate, but here we can have a little bit more fun and not slow this down. So what I'm going to do, because I know that 17 inches is more than enough to get everywhere, what I'm going to do is position these Kroot Hounds abusing the 2 inches of coherency to keep them around him so that he has no good movement options toward this objective or towards my home castle. So, 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. Now, psychic phase, shooting phase, fight phase happens after the movement phase. So essentially what you were doing, let's say I jump into the skins of the Grey Knight player. Hello there. And I look at this and I go, okay, I was wanting to go that way. If I run left, I am blocked off from this building. My vehicle literally cannot fit past there. Now, there are some tables where you just won't do that. There are a lot of opponents where I won't do that to them and we'll adjust terrain accordingly. But let's say, play it as it lies right here. He has to come around and then just stand there doing nothing behind obscuring terrain. Yes, maybe there's an angle for shooting where he can get something in the back castle, but that means that he's got a Grandmaster standing out in the open doing absolutely nothing. And these guys can also heroic intervene 6 inches for a CP, so we can also muck them up there. If we don't, he then has to run around, because remember, you cannot move within an inch of models that you haven't charged. So he can't run through them, he can't walk over them because he's not Titanic. So he has to basically just go around here, and he wastes a turn. If not, he walks to here, and then stands in front of some Kroot Hounds basically not having moved. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you use 24 points to gum up 200, 300, 400 point models, and I do this with knights all the time, to make them basically not have a turn. Now, let's look at another hedge case. And I've used this one to great effect multiple times. Let's say this boy is actually a knight. Actually, we can use Reptar. So, the knight is standing there. We know that he's going to want to move. Let's say he's got a 12-inch move. So he's going to get to about here. Most knights have a melee profile, they have a shooting profile, they have whatever. So what we're going to do is measure out that he has about a 4-inch base. Yep. So, from the 12-inch mark, we don't want you to get to there. 4 inches back is going to be my last Kroot Hound. And then all the others are going to position themselves so that he has no good moves. Now, the reason I do this is that Titanic models, yes, can walk over you, but they cannot even attempt the move if it would mean that they cannot finish on the other side of the models that they're wanting to move over. You can't stop on top of them, you can't do whatever. So if you can't get to the other side, you cannot move. Now, yes, he can advance, but check in with your opponent. There are very few people, especially with Titanic models, that can advance and charge or advance and shoot. So even if he does that, let's say he does. All he needs is a 1, but he gets a 3. So he moves over to the other side here. And we go, cool, all right, he's got a Titanic model. He's standing there for a full turn, doing nothing, not shooting, not charging, just standing in the open. He could potentially just nose onto an objective and go, cool, I count as 5 or 10 models, I take that objective. No worries, we can trade out that primary. But what it more means for us is that if we've got our castles sitting here with crisis suits and hammerheads and whatever else, we pop out and just go, bye-bye. And that is such a good trade for us. That is all made that way because that Kroot Hound unit stood at where he was not able to move. So, to recap that, I stood, he can move 12 inches. I stood my last Kroot Hound within 4 inches of it because he has a 4-inch base, and then everything else in front of that. So he can choose to just move here, pick up the Kroot Hound unit, but then he's standing in the open, or he can choose to advance, do nothing, and stand on the other side of them, getting ready to get shot and killed. And that is how you use Kroot Hounds. Okay, so Chassos, one thing that I forgot to mention when I was recording that part of the video, a very, very important ability that the Kroot Hounds have that a lot of people misinterpret the use case of, Stealthy Hunter. It just says, so ranged attack, each time you're receiving the benefits of cover, add an additional 120 armor saving throws made against that attack. I've made this as large as possible. Hopefully it's easy to see. Now, we see that they're on a 6-up save normally. So if they're in light cover, for example, they go to a 4-up. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that this doesn't specify only light cover. This just says benefits of cover. That can be dense cover, or if you ever have this come up in your games, heavy cover, which I never have. Like, no WTC tables use it. I have not seen it at a tournament. But yeah, so if you have your Kroot Hounds standing on dense, they're -1 to hit, and even though they're not getting that light cover bonus, they are still receiving benefits of cover, so they're saving on 5-ups. If they shoot at you with anything which is, you know, AP2, then you're dead in the water anyway, so it doesn't matter. But a lot of people don't want to commit AP2 or higher shooting to a 24-point Kroot Hound unit. So if you're saving on 5s, there might actually be that your opponent under commits their shooting to the Kroot Hound unit. They live through a turn and then they're able to stay on the board. So make sure that you get the full benefit out of Stealthy Hunters. Very, very important. Okay, so everybody, that is the video. Hopefully you guys found the information very, very helpful. I want to do a big shout out to my patrons, which will be on screen now. You guys are absolute ballers. And my first Chassos, and I really, really appreciate the hell out of all of you. If you would like to join them, there's a link down in the description to my Patreon where you can get a bunch of cool stuff for yourself, your name at the end of every single video, and you can also find help with your list, with your 40k tournament play, tactics, and everything else coming straight from one of the highest ranked 40k players in Australia. Everybody that is a part of my Patreon, you guys are helping me build something amazing, and you're going to see the quality of these videos going up. As the first thing on the docket is a brand new webcam, which I've already got my eye on a particular one made by Elgato, and cannot wait to have the means to be able to pick that up and just keep increasing the quality of every single one of my videos. So for anybody who has joined me, for anybody who will be joining me, I appreciate the fuck out of you. Have a great day, everybody. See you in the next video.